understated. So we'll see how that plays out. But on the ground in Iowa, he's off the plane. He's there living full-time, running around Iowa trying to get out the vote for Trump, his national campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski. Hey, Corey, good to have you back, man.
Hey, John, thanks for having me on. It's always good to be with you.
Okay, now you're in Iowa right now. You're there. You're talking to people. You're staying there. You've got a pretty good ground team. You've got your Iowa campaign manager, state directors, the fellow Chuck Lodner that won the state for Rick Santorum in 2012. Give our listeners, Corey Lewandowski, an update of where you think Iowa is right now in your Iowa operation.
Well, it's a real pleasure to be here in Iowa. I've been out here for a week now, and I'm going to stay until the caucus is over. And that's a testament to Mr. Trump's strong desire to not only compete in Iowa, but to win the state. And so we're, competing everywhere. Mr. Trump is going to be in Iowa today for 2 stops. So we're excited about that. He spent the weekend here. He's back here on Thursday again, and then we'll stay right through the rest of the weekend. And, here's what he said. When we got in this race, when Mr. Trump announced in June, many people said that he wouldn't do well and didn't think he'd get in the race. And then, I went back and looked at some of the newspaper clippings, and the day he announced, we came right to Iowa and did a first stop here. And at that time, the newspaper reported if he finished in the top 7, it would be a victory for Mr. Trump. That's what they predicted on June 16th of last year, if Mr. Trump finished in the top 7 in the Iowa caucus. I think the question now is, does Mr. Trump win the caucus or does he finish in second place? And for us, and I know we're setting an expectation high, but second place is not a win. And I know many other candidates think, hey, I can finish third or second or fourth and keep going. This country needs to win for a change. And what that means is you try and win at everything you do because the American people deserve the very best. And so we're going to compete every day from now until Monday to get every vote we can to make sure every person will show up in caucus and make as many phone calls as we can. Our phone banks are full here in Iowa. The volunteers are calling all the time. We're knocking on doors. We've got a great ground operation, but we'll take nothing for granted, and we will continue to work hard as possible until every last vote is cast on caucus night.
Well, there's no doubt you guys have a pretty good operation going right now because my wife, Ann, was contacted by your people in Virginia asking her to make phone calls at their phone bank in, I think, Virginia Beach in order to back to Iowa. So looks like you guys are making it happen, no question. You've gotten some criticism saying, you don't really have the traditional ground game. You have these rallies, people turn out. It's not the same as going in to a caucus for several hours, bearing the snow. How do you respond to that?
Well, here's what I think. I think these political pundits have been wrong at every turn since Mr. Trump has gotten in this race. And what they continue to say is, it's going to be a cold night in February and people aren't going to want to leave their homes. These aren't Floridians. These aren't people who live in Arizona. They live in Iowa. It was snowing yesterday. It's snowing today. It's not like, being cold is something new to them. They think that just because it's going to be cold, potentially cold on February 1st, these people aren't going to leave their homes. These people are so concerned about the direction of our country. They want to see a country which wins again. They want to see a country which reduces our national debt, that protects our borders, that stops illegal immigrants from coming into our country and killing Americans. I don't think weather is going to make a difference. Mm-hmm. These are the same people who stand in line for 3 or 4 or 5 hours at a time to come hear Mr. Trump speak and then go back and, drive home to their families because they want to see what's going on and they want someone who's a strong leader who will change the system because it's fundamentally broken. So this notion that people won't walk in to a caucus location and spend 30 minutes and privately write someone's name down on a piece of paper and turn it in because it's too difficult, I think is a fundamental flaw of what the political pundits think, and I think, candidly, it's degrading to the people of Iowa because I don't think they're concerned at all about how cold it is or walking into a building and writing 5 letters down of Trump on a piece of paper and handing it in. I think they're going to do that, and I think they're going to do it in higher numbers than we've ever seen.
Well, I think you're accurate there, Corey. As I've been saying, I believe that Trump's poll numbers are understated because it doesn't really account for people that have not gone to caucuses in the past that have been disenfranchised from the system, which I believe are going to turn out. And as far as the newspaper article that predicted you'd be 7th in Iowa, remember, I was the first guy in the United States back in May to say if you got in the race, you'd win. So just want to put that one in your hat. Now,
John, you have been a steadfast supporter from day one, and I'll tell you, you have been right on, and I hate to say it, but you were the very first one, the very first political commentator, very first radio talk show host who said, "Look, Trump has something special. If he gets in this race, he's going to win." You've never wavered, and I'll tell you, it's really refreshing, and it's such an honor. And that's why I'm not trying to say something I wouldn't say to someone else, but that's why I love doing your show, because you're smart, you knew about it, and you've consistently stood by that when so many other people have discouraged and dissuaded Trump from being in this race or having an impact. You've never wavered, and I appreciate that.
Well, thanks for saying that. I appreciate it. And it's really easy when you just listen to people like I do. I've got working class people that listen to my show every day. That's a quarter of my audience. And they're not happy with how things are going on. They're looking for change, and I believe that is about to happen. Ted Cruz has been running ads in Iowa that your campaign has been very critical of. You're saying they're disingenuous. Why?
Well, look, Ted Cruz wants to go out and talk about the fact that Donald Trump said that the issue of eminent domain is one where he has supported in the past, and so we raised the issue very candidly to Senator Cruz. Do you support the Keystone Pipeline? The Keystone Pipeline, the only way that is going to get built is through the process of eminent domain. And unfortunately, eminent domain is required sometimes to build highways and roads and bridges, and Ted doesn't want to talk about that. And Ted wants to talk about supposedly a home which was taken by eminent domain in Atlantic City, but it was never taken, is the bottom line. And that woman was allowed to keep her home, and after Mr. Trump left that property, she still kept her home. So there was no issue there of eminent domain. And look, the bottom line is this. And I know I'm going to get controversial for saying this, but the Keystone Pipeline runs from where Ted was born to where Ted lives, from Canada to Texas. I mean, that's what the bottom line is. I don't understand why he now doesn't support it, or maybe he does. But the issue is the only way you're going to get the Keystone Pipeline built, which I think he's actually in favor of, is by using eminent domain.
Well, there's no other way to get the pipeline through the land. I want to just ask you a question. We have an interstate highway system that was constructed under the Eisenhower administration. I mean, look, no one likes the government to come in and take or seize anything or demand anything. But look, eminent domain is part of how a country operates. We have an interstate highway system, one of the best in the world. The Eisenhower administration put it up. You look at the eminent domain in that. I mean, look, we all want to be sensitive to people and be sure they get a fair price or whatever. But if you have to build a highway, you have to build a highway, right?
Well, I think that's right. And I think what you forget sometimes is people want to say things that are politically, appropriate for them at the time, not giving people the full picture. And honestly, this is what's wrong with Washington, D.C. You've got Senator Cruz who says, hey, I'm for these illegal immigrants coming out from behind the shadows to, stay in our country. And then he says, well, that was a poison pill, and let me give you the Washington, D.C. mumbo-jumbo, right? Let me tell you about eminent domain, the Washington, D.C. mumbo-jumbo, the politicians who are all talk, no action. They're great at talking about fixing problems, but never actually doing it. And I think the difference in this presidential cycle is you have a business executive who has a proven track record of getting things done. And if you look at the polls, whether they're the ones that are out today in Iowa or across the country, the American people are tired of politics as usual. They're tired of politicians who say one thing and do something different. That's why Donald Trump has been and continues to be the clear leader in this race nationwide in New Hampshire, South Carolina, right across the board, because the American people are tired of it. These politicians have had 30 or 40 years to fix the system in Washington, and they do nothing. And whether it's Senator Cruz or Senator Rubio, they've all been part of the system. And if they can't go there and fix it, then why should we give them a promotion to try and fix it if they couldn't fix it the first time? And that's really the difference. And that's why I think, people are tired of the way this works, and people are angry. They're angry because our government is fundamentally broken, and they want someone who will go and change that. And that's why I think you see Donald Trump doing so well in these polls. Now, look, we've won nothing. And Mr. Trump has said that, if we don't win, then we've accomplished nothing. You have to win. The country has to win. So we're going to compete very hard everywhere we can, starting here in Iowa, then moving to my home state of New Hampshire, and from there, South Carolina and over to Nevada, and then right through the system. But we want to win because that's what the American people want. They want to be winners again. And I think that's what is resonating so well, is you get someone who's willing to fight so hard to do something. And I think that's why the American people, and really the people of Iowa, have resonated around Donald Trump's message.
New Hampshire's your firewall, no question. You guys are going to do very well there. That's your home state. Corey, you cut your teeth there politically. You know everybody there. I know you're going to do extremely well. I want to get to these expired visas. I mean, you talk about the incompetence in government. Mr. Trump often says that, we just don't have competent people. We find out the other day that the DHS, there's about 6 million minimum of expired HB1 and HB2 other student visas, 6 million expired visas. Nobody does anything about it. DHS says they go after about 0.5% of the people. Now, this is the other thing that they said. Jay Johnson the other day said, although there was a government mandate and edict to track these people over a decade ago, they've done nothing. They've made no progress on it. There's no system in place. So you come in the United States, you get a visa. It's a privilege. It's an honor. It expires. You don't go back. Nothing happens. And they still haven't put the system in place.
This is a fundamental problem with our government. You are much more politically correct than Mr. Trump would be when he says we're led by stupid people. I hate to say it, but it's true. Right? We have a government bureaucracy, and no any one individual, but a government bureaucracy that is wholly inefficient, that there's no accountability on. What we know is that most of the people who come to our country, a significant portion of them, actually come legally through the proper process, and then they just overstay their visas, or our State Department is so inept that we allow someone to come in on a K-1 visa, a wedding visa basically, come in and then commit a terrorist attack, the largest terrorist attack on our country's soil since 9/11, and they say, well, we couldn't check their social media account. Excuse me? We couldn't check what they're saying on Facebook, that they want to come to America and commit jihad, but we're going to let them into our country? Our system is so fundamentally ripe with fraud and abuse that we allow people into our country legally on a visa. They overstay the visa, and we say, well, don't worry about it. There's nothing we can do. Excuse me. Let's have a country of laws. Let's have a country of borders. Let's try and pretend we're trying to protect our own country for a change. It's amazing to me that our country has given up on going out and stopping the people who are here illegally. I don't understand. We are the greatest country in the world. It is a true high privilege to be born in this country and to be an American. I'm so proud of it every single day. But when we allow other people into our country, we should make them follow the rules. And if you can't follow the rules, then you shouldn't be allowed in, because so many people want to come here. And there is a process in place, but you have to follow the rules, and you have to have borders, and we have to put a wall up. And if we can't do those things, then at the end of the day, I don't understand how this government can protect our own people. We're letting people come and stay and overstaying their visas with no recourse whatsoever. It's not a function of money. It's not a function of manpower. We can enforce the rules, but this administration has chosen not to do that, and we have seen what happens when we don't have a good vetting process or a good system in place, when we're bringing people in from out of this country. We're talking about allowing Syrian refugees into this country. We don't know anything about these people. We know nothing. And they're saying, well, it's okay, we can't find anything about them, so they must be okay. Maybe we should turn that notion on its head and say, look, if we don't know anything about you, you can't come in. What we see now in Germany is that, they're saying we have a massive problem. We've allowed 1 million Syrian refugees into our country, and they have a massive problem going forward. It's time to put our country first, and I know it sounds like hyperbole to some people, but I'll tell you, John, there is nothing more important than protecting the people who live in this country, protecting our borders, making sure that Americans are safe first. That is the fundamental role of our country, of our government, in my mind, is making sure the American people are safe. And by allowing people to overstay their visas or allowing people to come in on K-1 visas and not doing background checks on these people and then allowing them to commit, a great terrorist attack on our soil, our government is failing us, and we need to do something about it.
It's why you're going to win Iowa and New Hampshire, just that right there, the fact that there's no consequences for overstaying your visa. Everybody that overstays it understands nothing will happen. We don't even have a mechanism to track it, which was mandated over a decade ago, and DHS has done nothing. Nobody is accountable. I mean, it's just shocking. The deeper you get into this stuff, I want to get to the Fox debate coming up. Your camp threatening to pull out of the Fox debate if Megyn Kelly was one of the moderators. Fox said, hey, have a good day. She's in. What now?
Well, look, I think what you have is you've got a network, who we respect a lot, but you've got a network that's rewarding bad behavior. I don't understand it. I mean, the first debate which she participated in, she leveled a series of personal attacks on Mr. Trump. her show has been increasingly negative towards Mr. Trump. Look, Mr. Trump has been on 6 debates already, I think. He's won every single one through every online poll. The last debate, by far, every pundit finally came around to realize that Trump was the winner of that debate. He has no problem debating. He does more public appearances and more television, radio, and TV and radio shows than any other candidate, probably all the candidates combined. It's not a question of answering tough questions. He'll be happy to do that, and he does it every single day, all the time, on every single major television and radio show in the country. But the personal attacks is where you draw the line. If you're going to have a debate, I don't think that the networks are tasked with making sure that the moderators are the story coming out of the debate. And to the credit of Fox Business, they've held 2 debates, and the moderators were fair and asked good questions. And nobody came out saying, hey, did you see what the moderator said of that debate? That's not what occurred. And, Megyn Kelly made that first debate about herself, and now they're rewarding her with another opportunity to participate in a nationally televised debate. That first debate on Fox was the highest-rated cable television show in the history of cable television, in the history of cable. 24 million people. And I am certain that a significant portion of those people tuned in to see what Mr. Trump had to say.
Right.
And I think the same will be true again should he decide to participate in the Fox debate. But I think, it would be fair that the moderators of any debate extract themselves from trying to make the news and focus on asking the candidates the policy questions that the American people actually want answers to.
So if Megyn stays, are you prepared right now to say that you're not going to participate in the debate coming up?
No, I think what we're going to say is, the decision is still being looked at. I think Mr. Trump wants to be treated fairly. He's willing to answer any question on a policy-related front that is fair and equitable. But, the personal attacks leveled by Megyn Kelly in the past were unacceptable. I think that the network probably realized that those are unacceptable as well. And look, if you look at what happened during the CNBC debate, those moderators were so biased against the candidates up on the stage that the Republican National Committee actually stepped in and removed NBC from being a debate sponsor moving forward and gave that to CNN for the late debate in February.
Oh, they fired them. Right.
That's right. They basically fired them.
Look,
what you see is, at the union leader, right, you've got a biased newspaper who's been attacking Mr. Trump, and they said, look, you cannot participate in the debate. What they've said to the National Review is, look, you want to go out and attack the front-running candidate for the presidency of the United States for the GOP, you cannot participate because you are not unbiased. We're not asking for anything other than what's fair and equitable across the board, but if you have a biased moderator up there, it'd be like asking, Deborah Wasserman Schultz to be a moderator. Maybe that's not the right thing to do when we're trying not to have the moderators make the news, but we're trying to have the candidates answer the questions so the American people can decide who they want to support.
Look, Corey Lewandowski, National Campaign Manager, Donald Trump for President. We're out of time. You're right. I was at the debate in Cleveland. I've been to all of them except Milwaukee. That performance by Megyn Kelly was one of the most despicable, deplorable things I've ever seen. And so I think you guys are dead on. Want more information? Go to donaldjtrump.com. Corey, thanks for being with us. I'll see you in Iowa next week.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you, John.